Hey folks, it's Don Wallace with allbahamaslistings.com. Welcome back. What we're looking at today is Freeport, Grand Bahama. Now, Grand Bahama has a whole different feel than the rest of the Bahamas, to be perfectly frank with you. It's been, I'd call it somewhat Americanized, and I mean that in a good sense, in that I'm not going to recount the entire history of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement with addendums and such, but basically the upshot is that most of the western half of Grand Bahama Island back in the 50s was sold isn't the right term. It was bought by a development company who then obtained some sovereignty rights from the Bahamian government for this. And when I say, so they have some sub-sovereignty rights within this development, and that basically means they get to run part of the government. The power company is privately owned. If you want to go down and get a permit to run a business here, you're getting that from a private organization or a non-Bahamas government organization, probably be more accurate. So, to make a long story short, it's a very different thing. Now, what's really interesting is that, of course, consulted Bahamas attorney for your particular situation, but very generally speaking, land in this area is exempt from property taxes. I'm going to say that again. I said land, generally speaking, inside the bonded area, which is all of everything you see here, and much, much more, is free of property taxes. And you're saying, how can that be? Well, that's kind of the deal. It's called Freeport. They call it Freeport for a reason, because they want people to come here and engage in one of the industries, obviously moving absolutely as a transfer point to move tremendous amounts of cargo through the container port, Freeport's container port, which is one of the major container ports in the world. But you're a little farther down from that. What's interesting here about this particular piece of property, you can do things in Freeport that you couldn't even dream of doing in the Family Islands or in Nassau. And I want to show you this, because what they're selling here is the entire end of a peninsula. Imagine that. Here's a very large peninsula completely surrounded by canalized boating water, okay? Just steps from the beach, and with easy access to one of the world's largest container ports, and also the other industry that takes place down the street. And you can own an entire peninsula. Something like this in a nice section of New Providence would probably cost you 8 to 12 million if it were even there at all, which I can't even think of what it would be. But that's the sort of thing you can still do here. They're asking $2.5 million. It's over 3 acres with 5 boating waterfront lots. So you can do the math yourself. But what tremendous, and the zoning tends to be very dense there. I don't have the zoning of this one right off the top of my head, but it's not unusual for some of these lots to be zoned high-rise condominium, and which is pretty extraordinary. But generally speaking, they have some reasonable flexibility. They want you to build things there. They have some reasonable flexibility over what you do. And if you're planning a substantial project, they're going to hear you out. You'll be dealing with a private company. You will not be dealing with a traditional government agency when you do go to negotiate what it is you're planning on doing. Thanks for tuning in. Don Wallace, allbahamaslistings.com. See you at the website.